Coriolanus returns triumphant from the war. Many anticipate that he will be consul, but the tribunes of the people have other plans. William Shakespeare, today on the Classic Tales podcast. Welcome to the Classic Tales podcast. Thank you for listening. Plutarch's Lives, Volume 2, is now available. In this volume, we read of Spartacus, Hannibal, the beginnings of the career of Caesar, and many other ancient Romans and Greeks. It's 20 more hours of some of the richest history ever penned. Go to www.thebestaudiobooks.com today. I've been trying to figure out lately what it is about the play of Coriolanus that speaks so particularly to me. I've run into it again and again, this Shakespearean play in particular. Well, there are a lot of things going on here, but I think what strikes me most is the concept of someone who has dedicated his life to an ideal, and then, when he is expecting a great reward, he not only doesn't get the anticipated reward, but also is banished from his home. The play can end here. There's tragedy enough. He is fanatically raised to be a soldier and fight. He knows nothing else. His reward is banishment. And though he is bigoted and very proud, and not a particularly affectionate father or husband, the fact that his world is taken from him demands our sympathy. We cannot help it. And worse, he cannot help himself. From the time he learned war from his mother's knee, whatever softer passions he had were taken from him and replaced with knives and steel. And now, Coriolanus, Part 2 of 5 by William Shakespeare. Introduction to Coriolanus, Part 2. Word of Coriolanus's victory in taking the Volscian city of Coriolis reaches those at Rome. First, we see Menenius defend Coriolanus to the two tribunes of the people, Sicinius and Brutus. These two tribunes, it will be remembered, were specially granted to defend the people's interests. They fear that if Coriolanus is granted the consulship, he will so ignore the voice of the common people that not only will the citizens' voices not be heard in the Senate, but that their very positions in the government, their jobs, will be relegated and marginalized. And so, Sicinius and Brutus do all that they can to turn the people against Coriolanus. Coriolanus returns in glory and greets his family. His mother is triumphant, while his wife greets him in tears. Next, Coriolanus stands before the Senate and is nominated for the consulship. Cominius, the current consul, extols the achievements of Coriolanus. But Coriolanus excuses himself from their presence. It makes him uncomfortable to hear his deeds proclaimed to the Senate. He returns, and the Senate accepts him, and it is then custom for the nominated consul to make a speech to the people, beseeching their voices and acceptance. Coriolanus waives this custom, finding it low and distasteful to him. Sicinius and Brutus mark this well. In the final scene of Act 2, Coriolanus, humbly dressed, goes among the people to perform the tradition of showing them the scars and marks that he has received during his wartime experiences. The people expect to see these marks, of which he has over 24. Coriolanus is loath to go a-begging amongst the poor people. He doesn't show the multitude his battle scars, but says that he has them sure enough, and that he is willing to show them in private. He begs their voices, and they do accept him. Sicinius and Brutus are there, and grudgingly admit that the people have accepted of Coriolanus's bid for the consulship. However, Sicinius and Brutus remain with the people after Coriolanus leaves them. they cunningly reverse the voice of the crowd, inciting riot against Coriolanus, and charging them to gather their like-minded friends for a march against the capital. They now cry for the death of Coriolanus. Act 2. Scene 1. We see Menenius sitting with two tribunes of the people, Sicinius and Brutus. Menenius speaks. The augurer tells me we shall have good news tonight. Good or bad, says Brutus. Not according to the prayer of the people, for they love not Marcius. Nature teaches beasts to know their friends, says Sicinius. Pray you, who does the wolf love? The lamb. Aye, to devour him, says Menenius, as the hungry plebeians would the noble Marcius. He's a lamb indeed that bars like a bear, says Brutus. He's a bear indeed that lives like a lamb. You two are old men. Tell me one thing that I shall ask you. Well, sir, in what enormity is Marcius poor, in that you two have not in abundance? Asks Menenius. Brutus considers for a moment, then says, He's poor in no one fault, but stored withal. Especially in pride. And topping all others in boasting. This is strange now, says Menenius, looking at them both. Do you two know how you are censured here in the city? I mean of us of the right-hand file. Do you? Why? How are we censured? The tribunes ask. Because you talk of pride now, will you not be angry? Well, well, sir, well. Both the tribunes reply. Why, 'tis no great matter, Menenius goes on. For a very little thief of occasion will rob you of a great deal of patience. Give your dispositions the reins, and be angry at your pleasures, at the least, if you can take it as a pleasure to you in being so. You blame Marcius for being proud. We do it not alone, sir, says Brutus. I know you can do very little alone, says Menenius. For your helps are many, or else your actions would grow wondrous single. Your abilities are too infant-like for doing much alone. You talk of pride. Oh, that you could turn your eyes toward the napes of your necks, and make but an interior survey of your good selves. Oh, that you could. What then, sir? Why, then, you should discover a brace of unmeriting, proud, violent, testy magistrates, alias fools, as any in Rome. Menenius, you are known well enough, too. I am known to be a humorous patrician, and one that loves a cup of hot wine with not a drop of a laying Tiber in it. Said to be something imperfect in favouring the first complaint, hasty and tinder-like upon too trivial motion. One that converses more with the buttock of the night than with the forehead of the morning. What I think I utter, and spend my malice in my breath. Meeting two such wheelsmen as you are, I cannot call you Lycurguses. If the drink you give me touch my palate adversely, I make a crooked face at it. I can say your worships have delivered the matter well, when I find the ass in compound with the major part of your syllables. And though I must be content to bear with those that say you are reverend grave men, yet they lie deadly that tell you have good faces. If you see this in the map of my microcosm, follows it that I am known well enough, too? What harm can your Bison conspicuities glean out of this character, if I be known well enough, too? Come, come, sir, we know you well enough, says Brutus. You know neither me, yourselves, nor anything. You are ambitious of poor knaves' caps and legs. You wear out a good wholesome forenoon in hearing a cause between an orange wife and a faucet seller, and then adjourn the controversy of threepence to a second day of audience. When you are hearing a matter between party and party, if you chance to be pinched with the colic, you make faces like mummers, set up the bloody flag against all patience, and in roaring for a chamber pot, dismiss the controversy bleeding, the more entangled by your hearing. All the peace you make in their cause is calling both parties knaves. You are a pair of strange ones. Come, come, says Brutus. You are well understood to be a perfecter gibber for the table than a necessary bencher in the Capitol. Our very priests must become mockers if they encounter such ridiculous subjects as you are, replies Menenius. When you speak best unto the purpose, it is not worth the wagging of your beards, and your beards deserve not so honourable a grave as to stuff a botcher's cushion, or to be entombed in an ass's pack-saddle. Yet you must be saying Marcius is proud, who, in a cheap estimation, is worth all your predecessors since Deucalion, though peradventure some of the best of 'em were hereditary hangmen. Goody unto your worships. More of your conversation would infect my brain, being the herdsman of the beastly plebeians. I will be bold to take my leave of you. Sicinius and Brutus stand and move to the side. Volumnia, Virgilia, and Valeria enter. Menenius sees the women. How now, my as fair as noble ladies, and the moon, were she earthly, no nobler? Whither do you follow your eyes so fast? Honourable Menenius, my boy Marcius approaches, says Volumnia. For the love of Juno, let's go. Ah, Marcius coming home? Ay, worthy Menenius, and with most prosperous approbation. Take my cap, Jupiter, and I thank thee. Oh, Marcius coming home! Menenius throws up his cap. Nay, 'tis true, Virgilia and Valeria say. Look, says Volumnia, coming forth with a letter. Here's a letter from him. The state hath another, his wife another, and I think there's one at home for you. I will make my very house reel tonight. A letter for me? Yes, certain. There's a letter for you, I saw it. A letter for me, says Menenius. It gives me an estate of 7 years' health, in which time I will make a lip at the physician. The most sovereign prescription in Galen is but empiriceutic, and to this preservative of no better report than a horse drench. Is he not wounded? He was wont to come home wounded. Oh, no, says Virgilia. Oh, he is wounded, I thank the gods for it, says Volumnia. So do I too, if it be not too much. Brings a victory in his pocket, says Menenius. The wounds become him. On's brows, Menenius, he comes a third time home with the oaken garland. Has he disciplined Aufidius soundly? Titus Lartius writes they fought together, but Aufidius got off. And 'twas time for him, too, I'll warrant him that. An he had stayed by him, I would have not have been so fidious for all the chests in Coriolanus, and the gold that's in 'em. Is the Senate possessed of this? Good ladies, let's go. Yes, says Volumnia. The Senate has letters from the general, wherein he gives my son the whole name of the war. He hath in this action outdone his former deeds doubly. In troth, says Valeria, there's wondrous things spoke of him. Wondrous, aye, I warrant you, and not without his true purchasing. The gods grant them true, says Virgilia. True? Poah, says Volumnia. True, I'll be sworn they are true. Where is he wounded? Menenius turns to the tribunes as he leaves. God save your worships, Marcius is coming home. He has more cause to be proud. Where is he wounded? In the shoulder and in the left arm, says Volumnia.
There will be large cicatrices to show the people when he shall stand for his place. He received in the repulse of Tarquin 7 hurts in the body, 1 in the neck and 2 in the thigh. There's 9 that I know. He had, before this last expedition, 25 wounds upon him.
Now it's 27, says Menenius. Every gash was an enemy's grave. There is a shout and a flourish of trumpets.
Hark, the trumpets! These are the ushers of Marcius. Before him he carries noise, and behind him he leaves tears. Death, that dark spirit, in's nervy arm doth lie, which being advanced declines, and then men die.
Trumpets proclaim the entrance of Cominius the general and Titus Lartius. Between them, Coriolanus, crowned with an oaken garland with captains and soldiers all about him. A herald speaks.
Know, Rome, that all alone Marcius did fight within Coriolis' gates, where he hath won with fame and name to Marcius Caius. These in honour follows Coriolanus. Welcome to Rome, renowned Coriolanus.
The trumpets sound and flourish again, and all proclaim, Welcome to Rome, renowned Coriolanus. No more of this, says Coriolanus. It does offend my heart. Pray now, no more. Cominius points to Volumnia.
Look, sir, your mother.
Oh. Coriolanus speaks to Volumnia. You have, I know, petitioned all the gods for my prosperity. He kneels before her.
Nay, my good soldier, up, my gentle Marcius, worthy Caius, and by deed achieving honour newly named. What is it? Coriolanus, must I call thee? But, O thy wife!
Coriolanus turns to Virgilia, whose eyes are streaming with tears. My gracious silence hail. Wouldst thou have laughed, had I come coffined home, that weep'st to see me triumph? Ah, my dear, such eyes the widows in Coriolis wear, and mothers that lack sons.
Now the gods crown thee, says Menenius.
And live you yet? Coriolanus sees Valeria. Oh, my sweet lady, pardon.
I know not where to turn. Oh, welcome home, and welcome, General, and you're welcome all. 100,000 welcomes, says Menenius. I could weep and I could laugh. I am light and heavy. Welcome! A curse begin at very root on's heart that is not glad to see thee. You are 3 that Rome should dote on. Yet by the faith of men we have some old crab trees here at home that will not be grafted to your relish. Yet welcome, warriors. We call a nettle but a nettle, and the faults of fools but folly. Ever right, says Cominius.
Menenius, ever.
Give way there, says the herald, and go on.
Coriolanus reaches to Volumnia and Virgilia, his mother and wife. Your hand, and yours. Ere in our own house I do shade my head, the good patricians must be visited, from whom I have received not only greetings, but with them change of honours.
I have lived to see inherited my very wishes, and the buildings of my fancy. Only there's one thing wanting, which I doubt not but our Rome will cast upon thee.
No, good mother, I had rather be the servant in my way than sway with them in theirs.
On to the capital,
proclaims Cominius. There is a flourish and announcement of coronets and trumpets. The whole party exits in a triumphant procession. Brutus and Sicinius enter from the back. Old tongues speak of him, says Brutus, and the bleared sights are spectacle to see him. Your prattling nurse into a rapture lets her baby cry, while she chats him. The kitchen malkin pins her richest lockram about her reechy neck, clambering the walls to eye him. Stalls, bulks, windows are smothered up.
Leads filled and ridges horsed with variable complexions, all agreeing in earnestness to see him. Seld-shown flamens do press among the popular throngs, and puff to win a vulgar station. Our veiled dames commit the war of white and damask in their nicely gauded cheeks, to the wanton spoil of Phoebus's burning kisses. Such a pother as if that whatsoever god who leads him were slyly crept into his human powers, and gave him graceful posture.
On the sudden I warrant him consul.
Then our office may during his power go sleep.
He cannot temperately transport his honours, from whence he should begin and end, but will lose those he hath won.
In that there's comfort.
Doubt not the commoners, for whom we stand, but they upon their ancient malice will forget with the least cause these new honours, which, that he will give them, make I as little question as he is proud to do it.
I heard him swear, were he to stand for consul, never would he appear in the marketplace, nor on him put the napless vesture of humility, nor, showing, as the manner is, his wounds to the people, beg their stinking breaths.
'Tis right.
It was his word. Oh, he would miss it rather than carry it, but by the suit of the gentry to him, and the desire of the nobles.
I wish no better than have him hold that purpose, and to put it in execution.
'Tis most like he will.
It shall be to him then, as our good wills, a sure destruction.
So it must fall out to him, or our authorities, for an end. We must suggest the people in what hatred he still hath held them, that to his power he would have made them mules, silenced their pleaders, and dispropertied their freedoms, holding them in human action and capacity of no more soul nor fitness for the world than camels in their war, who have their provend only for bearing burdens and sore blows for sinking under them.
This, as you say, suggested at some time when his soaring insolence shall teach the people, which time shall not want if he be put upon it, and that's as easy as to set dogs on sheep, will be his fire to kindle their dry stubble, and their blaze shall darken him forever.
A messenger enters. What's the matter?
You are sent to for the capital, says the messenger. 'Tis thought that Marcius shall be consul. I have seen the dumb men throng to see him, and the blind to hear him speak. Matrons flung gloves, ladies and maids their scarves and handkerchiefs upon him as he passed. The nobles bended as to Jove's statue, and the commoners made a shower and thunder with their caps and shouts. I never saw the like.
Let's to the capital, and carry with us ears and eyes for the time, but hearts for the event.
Have with you.
They all exit.
Scene 2. We are in the capital, and 2 officers enter, sprucing things up and making things ready for the senators and other nobles to enter and have the nominations for consul. Come, they are almost here. How many stand for consulships?
3, they say, but 'tis thought of everyone Coriolanus will carry it.
That's a brave fellow, but he's vengeance proud and loves not the common people.
Faith, there have been many great men that have flattered the people, who ne'er loved them, and there be many that they have loved, they know not wherefore, so that if they love they know not why, they hate upon no betterer ground. Therefore for Coriolanus neither to care whether they love or hate him manifests the true knowledge he has in their disposition, and out of his noble carelessness lets them plainly see it.
If he did not care whether he had their love or no, he waved indifferently twixt doing them neither good nor harm. But he seeks their hate with greater devotion than they can render it him, and leaves nothing undone that may fully discover him their opposite. Now to seem to affect the malice and displeasure of the people is as bad as that which he dislikes, to flatter them for their love.
He hath deserved worthily of his country, and his ascent is not by such easy degrees as those who,
having been supple and courteous to the people, bonneted without any further deed to have them at all into their estimation and report. But he hath so planted his honours in their eyes and his actions in their hearts, that for their tongues to be silent and not confess so much were a kind and ingrateful injury. To report otherwise were a malice that, giving itself the lie, would pluck reproof and rebuke from every ear that heard it. No more of him. He's a worthy man. Make way, they are coming. A flourish of trumpets announces the entrance of the patricians, or the nobility, and the tribunes, who represent the people, Sicinius and Brutus. Lictors go before them, who are officers attending magistrates. Coriolanus, Menenius, and Cominius the consul enter and take their places up on the stand. Sicinius and Brutus take their places by themselves in the audience. Coriolanus stands. Menenius addresses the Senate.
Having determined of the Volsces and to send for Titus Lartius, it remains as the main point of this our after-meeting to gratify his noble service that hath thus stood for his country. Therefore please you, most reverend and grave elders, to desire the present consul and last general in our well-found successes to report a little of that worthy work performed by Marcius Caius Coriolanus, whom we met here both to thank and to remember with honours like himself. "Speak, good Cominius," says the first senator. "Leave nothing out for length, and make us think rather our state's defective for requital than we to stretch it out."
He turns to Sicinius and Brutus, the tribunes of the people.
"Masters of the people, we do request your kindest ears, and after your loving motion toward the common body, to yield what passes here. We are convented upon a pleasing treaty, and have hearts inclinable to honour and advance the theme of our assembly.
Which the rather we shall be blessed to do, if he remember a kinder value of the people than he hath hitherto prized them at."
"That's off," Menenius says, exasperated. "I would you rather had been silent. Please you to hear Cominius speak?"
"Most willingly. But yet my caution was more pertinent than the rebuke you give it. He loves your people.
But tie him not to be their bedfellow. Worthy Cominius, speak." Coriolanus rises and offers to go away. Menenius is shocked, and says to him,
"Nay, please keep your place. Sit, Coriolanus, never shamed to hear what you have nobly done," says the first senator.
"Your honour's pardon. I had rather have my wounds to heal again than to hear say how I got them."
Brutus speaks right up.
"Sir, I hope my words dispensed you not."
"No, sir.
Yet oft when blows have made me stay, I fled from words. You soothed not, therefore hurt not, but your people. I love them as they weigh—"
Menenius cuts him off. "Pray now, sit down." Coriolanus turns to him and speaks closely. "I had rather have once scratched my head in the sun when the alarm was struck, than idly sit to hear my nothings monstered." And Coriolanus exits. Menenius blinks, straightens up, and addresses the people assembled.
"Masters of the people, your multiplying spawn, how can he flatter? That's 1,000 to a good one. When you now see he had rather venture all his limbs for honour than one on's ears to hear it. Proceed, Cominius."
Cominius stands and addresses the people from a prepared statement.
"I shall lack voice. The deeds of Coriolanus should not be uttered feebly. It is held that valour is the chiefest virtue, and most dignifies the haver. If it be, the man I speak of cannot in the world be singly counterpoised. At 16 years, when Tarquin made a head for Rome, he fought beyond the mark of others. Our then dictator, whom with all praise I point at, saw him fight, when with his Amazonian chin he drove the bristled lips before him. He bestrid an oppressed Roman, and, in the consul's view, slew 3 oppressors. Tarquin's self he met, and struck him on his knee. In that day's feats, when he might act the woman in the scene, he proved best man in the field, for his meed was brow bound with the oak. His pupil age man entered thus, he waxed like a sea, and in the brunt of 17 battles since, he lurched all swords of the garland, for this last before and in Coriolanus, let me say I cannot speak him home. He stopped the flyers, and by his rare example made the coward turn terror into sport, as weeds before a vessel under sail. So men obeyed and fell below his stem. His sword, death's stamp, where it did mark, it took. From face to foot he was a thing of blood, whose every motion was timed with dying cries. Alone he entered the mortal gate of the city, which he, painted with shunless destiny, aidless, came off, and, with a sudden reinforcement, struck Coriolanus like a planet. Now all's his. When by and by the din of war gan pierce his ready sense, then straight his doubled spirit requickened what in flesh was fatigue, and to the battle came he, where he did run reeking o'er the lives of men, as if 'twere a perpetual spoil, and till we called both field and city ours, he never stood to ease his breast with panting.
Worthy man, says Menenius,
he cannot but with measure fit the honours which we devise him. Our spoils he kicked at, Cominius resumes, and looked upon many things precious, as they were the common muck of the world. He covets less than misery itself would give, rewards his deeds with doing them, and is content to spend the time to end it. He is right noble. Let him be called for. Call Coriolanus. He doth appear.
Coriolanus enters from the back, and makes his way through the people to the front, where Cominius is addressing them.
The Senate, Coriolanus, are well pleased to make thee consul.
Coriolanus raises his eyes and looks around at the vast multitude. I do owe them still my life and services.
It then remains that you do speak to the people.
I do beseech you, let me o'erleap that custom. For I cannot put on the gown, stand naked, and entreat them, for my wound's sake, to give their suffrage. Please you that I may pass this doing.
Sicinius speaks up.
Sir, the people must have their voices. Neither will they bate one jot of ceremony.
Put them not to it, Menenius says to Coriolanus. Pray you, go fit you to the custom, and take to you as your predecessors have, your honour with your form. It is a part that I shall blush in acting, and might well be taken from the people.
Brutus says to Sicinius.
Mark you that. To brag to them, Coriolanus continues, thus I did, and thus, show them the unaching scars which I should hide, as if I had received them for the hire of their breath only.
Menenius sees that Coriolanus will not be persuaded. Do not stand upon it, he addresses the people.
We recommend to you, tribunes of the people, our purpose to them, and to our noble consul wish we all joy and honour. The senators all pronounce, to Coriolanus come all joy and honour. There is a flourish of coronets, then all exit, but Sicinius and Brutus.
You see how he intends to use the people?
May they perceive his intent. He will require them as if he did contemn what he requested should be in them to give.
Come, we'll inform them of our proceedings here. On the marketplace, I know they do attend us.
They both leave to go to the marketplace. Scene 3, the marketplace in Rome. We see 7 or 8 citizens speaking together in anticipation of Coriolanus coming and beseeching them to ratify his nomination to the consulship.
Once, if he do require our voices, we ought not to deny him.
We may, sir, if we will. We have power in ourselves to do it, but it is a power that we have no power to do. For if he shows us his wounds and tells us his deeds, well, we ought to put our tongues into those wounds and speak for them. So if he tell us his noble deeds, we must also tell him our noble acceptance of them. Ingratitude is monstrous, and for the multitude to be ingrateful were to make a monster of the multitude, of the which we, being members, should bring ourselves to be monstrous members.
And to make us no better thought of, a little help will serve. For once we stood up about the corn, he himself stuck not to call us the many-headed multitude.
That we have been called so of many, not that our heads are some brown, some black, some Abram, some bold, but that our wits are so diversely coloured. And truly, I think, if all our wits were to issue out of one skull, they would fly east, west, north, south, and their consent of one direct way should be at once to all the points of the compass.
Think you so? Which way do you judge my wit would fly?
Now your wit will not so soon out as another man's will. 'Tis strongly wedged up in a blockhead. But if it were at liberty, 'twould sure southward.
Why that way?
To lose itself in a fog, where being 3 parts melted away with rotten dews, the 4th would return for conscience' sake, to help to get thee a wife.
You are never without your tricks. You may. You may.
Are you all resolved to give your voices? But that's no matter, the greater part carries it. I say, if he would incline to the people, there was never a worthier man.
Enter Coriolanus, clothed in a gown of humility, with Menenius.
Oh, here he comes, and in the gown of humility. Mark his behaviour. We are not to stay altogether, but to come by him where he stands, by 1s, by 2s, and by 3s. He's to make his requests by particulars, wherein every one of us has a single honour in giving him our own voices with our own tongues. Therefore, follow me, and I'll direct you how you shall go by him.
All speak, content, content. And the citizens all exit. And we see Menenius and Coriolanus speaking together, out of hearing from everyone else.
Oh, sir, you are not right. Have you not known the worthiest men have done it?
What must I say?
I pray, sir.
Plague upon it, I cannot bring my tongue to such a place.
Look, sir, my wounds. I got them in my country's service when some certain of your brethren roared and ran from the noise of our own drums. Oh me, the gods, you must not speak of that. You must desire them to think upon you.
Think upon me? Hang 'em. I would they would forget me, like the virtues which our divines loose by 'em.
You'll mar all,
says Menenius.
I'll leave you. Pray you, speak to 'em, I pray you, in wholesome manner.
Bid them wash their faces and keep their teeth clean.
3 of the citizens now make their way towards Coriolanus.
So, here comes a brace. You know the cause, sir, of my standing here? We do, sir. Tell us what hath brought you to it.
Mine own desert.
Your own desert?
Aye, but not my own desire.
How not your own desire?
No, sir, 'twas never my desire yet to trouble the poor with begging.
You must think, if we give you anything, we hope to gain by you.
Well, then, I pray, your price of the consulship?
The price is to ask it kindly.
Coriolanus holds back his impatience. Kindly, sir, I pray, let me have it. I have wounds to show you, which shall be yours in private. Your good voice, sir, what say you?
You shall have it, worthy sir.
A match, sir. There's an all too worthy voices begged. I have your arms, adieu. But this is something odd.
And 'twere to give again, but is no matter.
The second and third citizens leave. 2 other citizens enter. Coriolanus speaks to them. Pray you now, if I may stand with the tune of your voices, that I may be consul. I have here the customary gown. He gestures to his clothes. The 4th citizen looks him steadily in the eye. You have deserved nobly of your country, and you have not deserved nobly.
Your enigma? Coriolanus asks.
You have been a scourge to her enemies. You have been a rod to her friends. You have not indeed loved the common people.
Coriolanus replies, You should account me the more virtuous that I have not been common in my love. I will, sir, flatter my sworn brother, the people, to earn a dearer estimation of them. 'Tis a condition they account gentle, and since the wisdom of their choice is rather to have my hat than my heart, I will practice the insinuating nod, and be off to them most counterfeitly. That is, sir, I will counterfeit the bewitchment of some popular man, and give it bountiful to the desirers. Therefore beseech you, I may be consul.
We hope to find you our friend, and therefore give you our voices heartily. You have received many wounds for your country.
I will not seal your knowledge with showing them, Coriolanus replies. I will make much of your voices, and so trouble you no further.
The gods give you joy, sir, heartily, both the citizens say, and they leave.
Coriolanus speaks to himself. Most sweet voices. Better it is to die. Better to starve than crave the hire, which first we do deserve. Why in this wolvish tongue should I stand here, to beg of Hob and Dick that does appear their needless vouches? Custom calls me to it. What custom wills, in all things should we do it. The dust on antique time would lie unswept, and mountainous error be too highly heaped for truth to o'erpeer. Rather than fool it so, let the high office and the honour go to one who would do thus. I am half through. The one part suffered, the other will I do. He sees 3 more citizens coming toward him. Here come more voices. Your voices? For your voices I have fought, watched for your voices. For your voices, bare of wounds, 24 odd. Battles, thrice, 6, I have seen and heard of. For your voices, have done many things, some less, some more. Your voices. Indeed, I would be consul. The 2 citizens speak. He has done nobly, and cannot go without any honest man's voice. Therefore, let him be consul. The gods give him joy and make him good friend to the people. All the citizens now begin chanting, Amen, Amen! God save thee, noble consul! Worthy voices, says Coriolanus in approbation. All the citizens exit. Menenius, Brutus, and Sicinius come up to Coriolanus. You have stood your limitation, says Menenius, and the tribunes endue you with the people's voice. Remains that, in the official marks invested, you anon do meet the Senate. Coriolanus turns to Sicinius. Is this done? The custom of request you have discharged, says Sicinius. The people do admit you. You are summoned to meet anon upon your approbation. Where? At the Senate House? There, Coriolanus. May I change these garments? You may, sir. That I'll straight do, and knowing myself again, repair to the Senate House. I'll keep you company. Will you along? Menenius asks the tribunes. We stay here, for the people. Fare you well. Coriolanus and Menenius leave them, and Sicinius and Brutus speak to each other. He has it now, and by his looks methinks 'tis warm at's heart. With a proud heart he wore his humble weeds. Will you dismiss the people?"
They turned to the citizens who are still chanting for Coriolanus. Brutus and Sicinius attempt to calm them down.
"How now, my masters? Have you chose this man? He has our voices, sir."
"We pray the gods he may deserve your loves."
"Amen, sir. To my poor unworthy notice, he mocked us when he begged our voices."
"Certainly. He flouted us downright."
"No, 'tis his kind of speech. He did not mock us. Not one amongst us, save yourself, but says he used us scornfully. He should have showed us his marks of merit, wounds received for his country." "Why, so he did, I am sure," says Sicinius. No man saw him," all the citizens agree.
"He said he had wounds which he could show in private, and with his hat, thus waving it in scorn, 'I would be consul,' says he. 'Aged custom by your voices will not so permit me, your voices therefore.' When we granted that, here was, 'I thank you for your voices, thank you, your most sweet voices. Now you have left your voices, I have no further with you.' Was not this mockery?"
"Why, either you were ignorant to see it, or seeing it of such childish friendliness to yield your voices."
Brutus speaks to the people.
"Could you not have told him, as you were lessoned, when he had no power, but was a petty servant to the state, he was your enemy, ever spake against your liberties, and the charters that bear in the body of the wheel, and now, arriving a place of potency and sway of the state, if he should still malignantly remain fast foe to the plebei, your voices might be curses to yourselves. You should have said that as his worthy deeds did claim no less than what he stood for, so his gracious nature would think upon you for your voices, and translate his malice towards you into love, standing your friendly lord."
Thus to have said, as you were foreadvised, had touched his spirit and tried his inclination. From him plucked either his gracious promise, which you might, as cause had called you up, have held him to, or else it would have galled his surly nature, which easily endures not article tying him to aught. So putting him to rage, you should have taken the advantage of his choler and passed him unelected.
"Did you perceive," says Brutus, "he did solicit you in free contempt when he did need your loves? And do you think that his contempt shall not be bruising to you when he hath power to crush? Why, had your bodies no heart among you? Or had you tongues to cry against the rectorship of judgment?
Have you ere now denied the asker, and now again of him that did not ask but mock, bestow your sued-for tongues?"
"He is not confirmed. We may deny him yet."
"And we will deny him. I'll have 500 voices of that sound."
"Aye, twice 500, and their friends to piece 'em." "Get you hence instantly, and tell those friends they have chose a consul that will from them take their liberties," says Brutus. "Make them of no more voice than dogs that are as often beat for barking as therefore kept to do so."
"Let them assemble, and on a safer judgment all revoke your ignorant election," says Sicinius. "Enforce his pride and his old hate unto you. Besides, forget not with what contempt he wore the humble weed, how in his suit he scorned you, but your loves, thinking upon his services, took from you the apprehension of his present portents, which most gibingly, ungravely, he did fashion after the inveterate hate he bears you."
"Lay a fault on us, your tribunes," says Brutus, "that we laboured no impediment between, but that you must cast your election on him."
"Say you chose him more after our commandment than as guided by your own true affections. and that your minds, preoccupied with what you rather must do than what you should, made you against the grain to voice him consul, lay the fault on us.
Aye, spare us not. Say we read lectures to you. How youngly he began to serve his country, how long continued, and what stock he springs of, the noble house of the Martians, from whence came that Ancus Martius, Numa's daughter's son, who, after great Hostilius here were king, of the same house Publius and Quintus were, that our best water broughtest by conduits hither. And Censorinus, that was so surnamed, and nobly named so, twice being censor, was his great ancestor.
One thus descended, says Sicinius, that hath beside well in his person wrought to be set high in place, we did commend to your remembrances. But you have found, scaling his present bearing with his past, that he's your fixed enemy, and revoke your sudden approbation.
Say you ne'er had done it. Harp on that still, but by our putting on, and presently, when you have drawn your number, repair to the capital.
We will so,
they all exclaim. Almost all repent in their election, and the citizens, all screaming and shouting imprecations against Caius Marcius Coriolanus, leave Brutus and Sicinius alone. Let them go on. This mutiny were better put in hazard than stay, past doubt for greater. If, as his nature is, he fall in rage with their refusal, both observe and answer the vantage of his anger.
To the capital come. We will be there before the stream of the people, and this shall seem as partly 'tis their own, which we have goaded onward.
This is B.J. Harrison. I hope you have enjoyed this unabridged production of Coriolanus Part 2 of 5 by William Shakespeare. If you or someone you know has a dynamite blog that would make a dynamite audio podcast, drop me a line at voiceover@thebestaudiobooks.com. I can make your blog into a world-class podcast that will reach a greater fan base and be vastly entertaining. Thank you for joining me today and allowing classic literature to awaken your better self. Please join me every week, and we'll rediscover the greatest stories the world has ever known.